YouTube, it's Sean from the Pompey Games Room, back with my third video for my console histories. So, I've effectively called this section on my channel, Me and My Console. So this will be the third instalment really behind the SNES and the Mega Drive. So there'll be more to come. Basically these videos are centred around the consoles I've owned, consoles I've played, or just consoles I've got memory of. But it'll probably be more predominantly consoles that I've owned or had bought for me. So yeah, today it's a totally different sort of video for me in that it's a system I don't actually own anymore. It is predominantly memories. I don't have an awful lot of sort of nostalgia even to buy it back. It's just a console that back in the day I remember having, got a lot of happy memories on it, but it's not something I would ever use now. I believe it's an 8-bit console. No, I'm pretty sure it is an 8-bit console. Done a fair bit of research for this. This also involved me going back and watching my first ever YouTube video, which was cringe-worthy to watch. And I speak in one tone like this the whole way through. And I had this PC, and I had that, and I played this game. And it's awful. I suggest you all go back and watch your first ever videos because they are proper cringe-worthy to look back at now. Where you've got a bit of sort of charisma to your videos and stuff. But also looks like I'm wearing lipstick, but I can categorically rule out lipstick wearing in my videos. So, anyway, yeah. So it's a video that I had to do a fair bit of research on because I've got very happy memories of this console, and I know what you're all saying. Sean, just get on and say what it is. Well, that console is the Commodore 64C. So yeah, let's start back right at the beginning. Really, it was about 1990. And it was probably, I'd say it is 1990. I was very young at the time, so I would have been sort of 5 or 6 at the time, 5 at this time, really. Yeah, one Christmas, my older brother, Glenn, who sadly is no longer with us, but this is what I mean, this actual PC or something like that, this games machine has a lot of memories of Glenn for me, so being able to record this video on my channel means an awful lot to me and go back over a lot of this nostalgia trip. But as I said, it's not really a console I'd want to buy back, so I wouldn't really have a lot of use for it, but I'll get on to why. This thing was huge, absolutely huge. It had a monitor, a keyboard, a tape deck. In fact, I'll put in here what we had. It was, I believe it's the Light Fantastic or something like that. It's like a light phaser set. And it was a box set basically. It came with an awful lot of stuff, and I remember the box because I remember us sort of moving around the box on Boxing Day, funnily enough, pardon the pun. It was a fantastic console back in the day. A lot of my friends had NESs, and a few of them had Atari machines, very, very, old Atari machines. And yeah, so this was a lot different. It was a lot bigger, but a lot different to what other people had. There wasn't a lot of people that had Commodore 64s. So, well, around my area where I was as a kid, there wasn't really a lot of kids that had Commodore 64s at all. So. Yeah, so anyway, we came down one Christmas morning and we weren't allowed in the back room. And I don't know why I just did that up there, sorry. Yeah, we weren't allowed in the back room on Christmas Day, which is highly odd because usually we opened all our presents in the back room. But lo and behold, we opened all our presents, ripped through everything and stuff like that. Much similar to the Mega Drive memories I'm capping over in the video before this, actually, my Mega Drive memories. So yeah, we ripped through all the paper on the other presents, yeah, they're all brilliant and things like that. But yeah, it was probably about 11:30 and we got to go in the back room, and set up on the dinner table with all the Christmas dinner stuff set around it was the Commodore 64C. Now, like I said, this thing is huge, and it's got to be one of the reasons why I would never want to buy one back, because I haven't got the room. I struggle trying to fit boxed Mega Drive stuff in, and Sega Saturn and N64 stuff, so trying to fit in this massive Commodore 64 in with everything would just be a no-no. But it's something I often try and watch on YouTube if people have got Commodore 64 things, and it's quite nice actually watching people like Blue Tonic 78 and Psycho Fox, I think, also picks a lot of things up, and for the Commodore machines, and it's very nostalgic to watch. But yeah, so basically this machine, like I said, it was huge on the dinner table, and it took up literally the whole table. And it came with a light phaser, it came with a tape deck. I think the machine also had a disk drive with it, and the big monitor obviously as well. So my parents spent an absolute fortune on it. I remember these machines being an absolute bomb. back in the day. It's funny actually, watching my first video, looking back, I actually referenced a shooting game, and I still don't know what it is now. And I said, you know, if anyone could leave a comment or something like that. But you know, looking back over the research I've done for this video, there were thousands of games, shooter games. So I don't blame people for not commenting and helping me out with the name for the game. But yeah. It could have been anything really, but basically it was a shooting game, and it's the first ever time I'd used a light phaser. So you know, shooting at a screen was quite incredible, and felt really good. So yeah, I think I read somewhere that there's like as many as 10,000 software-based titles for the Commodore 64 alone. So you know, trying to limit it down to one shooter game would have been a bit far-fetched, and expecting people to you know, comment and say it's this one. And thank you, that's exactly what I was looking for. So. Like I said, you know, 10,000 games and bits of software for this machine. I mean, it was absolutely huge back in the day. And like I said, it came with the cassette deck. And one thing I remember about the cassettes was having to wind it back and play it. And you couldn't leave the cassettes in the machine because they would stretch the cassette bands and things like that. And you know, the amount of rules and stipulations you had to make this machine work were just incredible. And yeah, I remember, you know, playing absolute classic games, which I'll get to later on. But yeah, that Christmas that we got that, I mean, it was just unbelievable. It was the first time I'd ever really played on a games console or a games machine. So I was absolutely hooked, and it was very new to me. And I would say probably a Commodore 64C is something that really got me into gaming. You know, it had such brilliant things with it. And you could pick games up from pretty much most sort of stores around, well, Portsmouth especially. I mean, we used to have a Tandy store that we could pick stuff up from. Toys R Us sold them. The big Toys R Us in Portsmouth sold them. Even, I seem to remember, even things like Tesco's back in the day. W.H. Smith definitely sold them. But you know, you could pick these games up anywhere, and they were cassettes, obviously. So yeah, you could pretty much pick them up absolutely anywhere. Which made, you know, playing games and actually being a gamer at about that time in sort of the early 90s very easy, because you could usually pick the cassettes up for not a lot of money, to be honest, from the stores. You know, I seem to remember me and Glenn putting our pocket money together quite a lot and buying games. A lot of the games that I'm going to reference actually, and yeah, it was an absolutely brilliant time in gaming, and it's probably one of the reasons I never really got into the NES at all. Friends of mine had NESs and stuff, but it was great to play on, but you know, I had my Commodore at home and I was perfectly happy. I think had I been a bit older, say like 10 or you know, 10, 11, 12, I think I would have really gotten into that machine, and it would have been basically my Mega Drive. So, but unfortunately for the Commodore 64C, it came a bit too early for me. Didn't really take in an awful lot of it. So, yeah, so a little bit of a history about Commodore really. They were massive in the 80s, and even the early 90s, which is when, you know, we got our Commodore 64C. And they discontinued, actually filed for bankruptcy in 1994. But the Commodore 64 ran throughout the 80s and also was only discontinued in 1995. So the lifespan on that machine, I mean, it's just hideously long. You know, you think about it, I mean, it's nearly, probably, I would say, I think I read it was sort of 82 or 83, it became very mainstream, and it was outselling things like Apple PCs and or Atari gaming machines at 8-bit as well. So it was doing amazingly well. I don't think it transported to the US and Canada very well, but in Europe it was a brilliant little machine. And like I said, a lot of kids back in the day, I never really knew had Commodore 64s. But you know, we were very happy with our machine, and the things it came with, like I said, the joysticks I can look back on, and you know, happy memories. This research for this video has really led me to sort of really want to pick one up, but I just haven't got the room. So unfortunately, it will have to be just a dream. Looking at on the YouTube videos from people like yourselves who pick them up and things like that, but just the people opening the cassette cases and stuff, it brings back a lot of memories. But yeah, so I've got an awful lot of happy memories of the Commodore 64C. Unfortunately, it's one of those machines I don't have anything to show you, so it's going to have to be pictures and videos and things like that, unfortunately. But yeah, so this was my first ever real games console / computer. So, you know, the hours on this machine I spent were just amazing amount, you know. After school weekends when it was raining and stuff, I was always out playing football and pretty active as a kid. So, you know, I basically played on the Commodore 64 when it was dark and stuff like that. So, but no, very, very nostalgic, heavy machine, the Commodore 64C, and sadly I probably won't ever get one back. But yeah, I think that's why it's probably still in my mind in such a great, how can I say it? Such great memories, really, because I'll never ever have anything to play on really to tarnish those memories, if that makes sense. So yeah, like I said, you know, Glenn and I used to club together and put our pocket money together and pick up games from our local WH Smith, which was in Cosham at the time. It's no longer there, it's a Wetherspoons. So, I've researched a few of the games and found them basically by gameplay and name. So the first game that I remember playing, the first game I really remember playing was the cave shooting game. The phaser games on the Commodore 64C were brilliant. I used to love playing them. I remember we also had a game, again I can't remember the name of it, we had a game where you had to shoot cans and things like that. I very, very vaguely remember shooting cans. It might have been a special stage level or something, but like I said, it was only sort of 5 or 6. So it's one of those things that I don't really have an awful lot of memories of, if I'm being honest, just basically from my age. So yeah, you know, a few of the light phaser gun games were just absolutely brilliant to play on as a kid, and I really, really enjoyed them. So probably not just give you a game for the light phaser gun games, just say the live phaser. So that was a great thing I loved doing. But the one game that I have an awful lot of memories of, apart from my last one I'm going to say, is I would have to say it's Airwolf. Now, Airwolf was possibly the first game that I played to death back in the day. I've got a lot of happy memories of it. It's one of those things that whenever I remember playing Airwolf, the game, I just remember 3 or 4 things basically. I can remember the room I was in, I can remember cheap Coca-Cola bottles that had Panda Pops, things like that. That's it, Panda Pops. I remember Panda Pops, and I remember the controls. I just remember it, and that's what I say about, you know, not being able to play these games again. Just looking at footage and stuff for Airwolf, it just brought it all back for me. So one of the games that we played an awful lot was Airwolf, an absolutely stunning game back in the day, and it was one of my favourites. And also, I do believe it's possibly one of the favourites of a lot of Commodore 64. Users back in the day. So yeah, I mean, definitely up there. But another game I remember not being too good, but I remember playing quite a lot, was Back to the Future. I can't remember if it's 2 or 3, the Wild West. I think it would have been 3 because I'm pretty sure it was the last one. But I remember that, and I remember there being a horse stage where you were chasing wagon and things like that from memory. It was one of the games that I've got to admit, I didn't really, it's just coming to my head now. It's one of the games that I didn't actually do a lot of research into. But yeah, I remember that game being really difficult, as was in the Indiana Jones game. I remember just being absolutely, just cringe-worthingly hard, you know, just like, you just wanted to get past like jumps and things, kept falling down holes and things like that, and it was just it probably was an awful game, thinking back now, but I didn't actually Google any video for it, so I can't actually elaborate any more on that. But they're games that I've just thought of now whilst recording this video. Yeah, they were, in fact, I'm pretty sure it would have been Back to the Future 3. Yeah, I'm absolutely positive it was Back to the Future 3 that I ended up playing. So, the next game that I remember actually buying with my pocket money, and I got it at a car boot, and that was Batman the Caped Crusader. I just had to look to the side there because I made a little note of that. Now, the Caped Crusader was a fantastic game back in the day, and it was one of the things that really made me like the Batman series, and I ended up watching, you know, TV shows with Batman on it, and then buying the comic books and things like that, because it was a really, really good game. From memory, I think it was a platformer, basically. I can't remember if you went from screen to screen, or if it was like, you know, just walked along like you would in any other platformer. I seem to recall that it was screen to screen, but I might be wrong there. I do remember it was very, very sort of, there was only about 2 colours on the screen from memory. There was sort of a bluey, well, in fact, probably find a picture of it here. There's one there. So yeah, I mean, it's exactly how I remember it being, actually, with like a red sort of browny background, and then sort of a bluey, sort of blacky blue, really dark blue sort of you know, character and also sort of brickwork and things like that, and it was always the same, and the enemies would usually be in the same sort of thing as well, so you know, the same sort of colour. So yeah, it was a brilliant game back in the day, and it was the first real platformer I probably played, to be honest. So yeah, really enjoyed that, Batman the Caped Crusader. Now the next game I'm going to say is one that my older brother and I, we clubbed together to buy in Toys R Us, and that was Double Dragon 2, The Revenge. Basically, from this game, I seem to remember that we got it on a we got Double Dragon 2 on a compilation. There was another game on it as well. I can't quite remember what the other one was, but basically we bought a bundle deal basically, and we had other games on in the same box. And Double Dragon 2 was probably the only beat 'em up I played until I played Streets of Rage 2, and then Streets of Rage 2 just overtook that game completely for me. But Double Dragon 2 it's got a brilliant reputation of being a really good game. It might not just be Double Dragon 2, there was Double Dragon before that, but it was what introduced me to the game series, and obviously that game series has been synonymous with gaming really in the early days. It was pretty much every console, so yeah, I would have to say Double Dragon for sure. Now the first ever Formula 1 game I played, and I've got to admit I went back and looked at footage of this, and it's Grand Prix Circuit, and it's really weird because I remember going back and looking at footage of this on YouTube, and just the sounds of this game, it all came flooding back to me, and it was just a fantastic game. It was what introduced me to Formula 1. I loved the idea. I'd never played an 8-bit racing game where there was like stands in the background, usually like on things like Outrun and stuff in the arcade. If Outrun was even out, probably was in 1990 in the arcades, but you know, you always had the same scenery in the background, and you were turning corners and going under bridges and stuff, but this had stands and it had flags and it had everything on it. It was a brilliant racing game back in the day. You look back at it now, it's shocking. I mean, proper shocking. It makes burning rubber on the Amstrad, on the GX4000. I've done a review on that, I can't even remember the name of it. It makes Burning Rubber look a really challenging, great game, really clean graphics. But back in the day for me, yeah, it was an absolutely brilliant game, and you had a choice of memory. I think it was about between 5 to 8 circuits, and Monaco was one of them, and I played the hell out of the Monaco one. I absolutely loved it. And it's amazing now, you look at the games we've got from Codemasters now, where you've got every part of the city that you drive around is perfectly detailed. And you look back there and it's just like, you know, you've just got the basic track to follow. And it's just, you know, there's nothing to the side, there's no boats or anything in the harbour, it's basically just grass. And the odd occasional shell sign or something I seem to recall. So, but after that came another game that I picked up at a car boot, and that was Grand Prix Simulator. Grand Prix Simulator was, I believe it was one of the first Formula 1 games to come out for the Commodore 64, and it's a game that I've got an awful lot of memories of, because it's a game that I bought after Grand Prix Circuit, but didn't play an awful lot because I was so addicted to the first game I bought, which was the last game we just looked at. Fantastic game, lots of memories of this one. I actually remember giving it to one of my friends, Gary, and he loved it. It was his Grand Prix Circuit. It was his version of Grand Prix Circuit for me, if that makes sense. He was a big Formula 1 fan as well. So, in fact, no, it wasn't Gary, it was my friend Joe. So, not Gary, sorry. Yeah, it was his sort of go-to game for Formula 1 action. And it was never as good in my opinion, but it was always a good laugh to watch him play. And yeah, I really loved that game, but not as much as Grand Prix Circuit. So. But the next game I will probably say from my list here, I'm going to say Ghouls and Ghosts. It's not a game I had a lot of playing time on, but I used to play it with my brother every now and again, taking turns. Yeah, it's just one of those games that I look back now and I can just remember a lot of times playing that and watching him play it. And it was actually quite scary being like a 6 or 7 year old kid watching your brother play it. But he was really good at it, and I was just useless at it. It was sort of a maze and things like that. I just couldn't get mazes and stuff like that. I was useless and just used to get eaten all the time and killed. So yeah, Ghouls and Ghosts was definitely a game I remember playing, and very nostalgic at being bad at it, really. Very memorable game for me for the wrong reasons, you could probably say. But so Ghouls and Ghosts would have to be up there. Next one is a big classic for me, and that is Silkworm. Silkworm, from memory, was an awful lot like Airwolf. And it was basically a platformer, but you know, you were either in a sort of a jeep on the ground, or you were in a helicopter sort of plane thing, so a flying machine. I can't remember whether it was helicopter or a plane. I'm pretty sure it was a helicopter, like a gunship sort of thing. But it was basically like a, you know, a side-scrolling platformer, and you had to. I seem to remember that the screen moved with you. And basically pushed you along. If you didn't move, it just pushed you along and stuff like that. So, yeah, it was a fantastic game. I remember playing that an awful lot, and I seem to remember that was co-op. Actually, I'm pretty sure it was. I do remember playing that co-op. But yeah, brilliant game. Played a lot of hours on that. Used to love that game. Absolutely love it. And basically, the idea was, I seem to recall that the gunship used to have to shoot obstacles out the way on the ground for the Jeep to go along, and vice versa. The Jeep had to shoot obstacles in the sky out the way for the plane and things like that. So it was a real sort of co-op thing. If you were working as a team, I seem to remember. I'm probably all wrong here, but you know, it's been, thinking back now, 22 years since I played the Commodore 64. So I think you could probably let me off for that. But the last game I can remember playing, and I think I actually referenced it in my first ever YouTube video, and it's an absolute classic for me, a platformer by the name of the CJ Elephant Antics. It was a game that, like I said, it was a platformer made very early game by Codemasters, and I remember playing the hell out of this game. Platformer, you're an elephant, ironically, but basically a really colourful game back in the day, and it was challenging, really challenging game. And I seem to remember now, looking back at footage about a week ago when I was trying to think of things to say in this video, it was just an absolute fantastic game. Looking back at it now, just so many memories of playing this game. And you know, the levels, the music, very nostalgic music. And it's a game that I will always think back and think of the Commodore 64 every time I see that see the levels and hear the music. It's one of those games, a bit like Super Mario for some people. You know, you just get those feelings when you hear certain level music, and Sonic the Hedgehog, things like that. You know exactly where, you know, that music's from. You can place it, and no, absolutely fantastic game. Loads of happy memories of CJ's Elephant Antics. So that's it, guys. That's my recap of my gaming history for the Commodore 64C. A fantastic console, computer, whatever you want to call it, and was my 8-bit machine, effectively. I never had a NES or anything like that, and thinking back now, I was very lucky to have the Commodore 64, because it was very expensive back in the day. A lot of money to buy all the kit that my parents bought for us at Christmas, and you know, I really appreciate everything my parents did for me when I was growing up, because you know, it was very difficult for them. We weren't a really well-off family, but we never wanted for anything as kids. So yeah, happy memories of the Commodore 64, of my older brother, really. But it's, thinking back now, it really makes me want to go pick one up. But I'm swearing on my channel here, I cannot pick up a Commodore 64. I've got nowhere to put it. So if I ever pick one up down the line, you have my permission. The first person that comments gets it for free, and you can hold me to this video. So there you go. If I pick up a Commodore 64C, it's out there now. Comment on the video I pick it up on, and it's yours, okay? No lawyers or anything. It's on video. I'm not going to delete this video, so yeah, guys. Anyway, so I will be doing more videos like this. I've got loads more consoles that I've owned and also played on. Lots of memories to talk about. Really enjoying doing this little video series, actually. It's really good to sort of recap over things and, you know, just talk about memories and stuff. So anyway, guys, I'll be back again soon with another video. Please feel free to comment, rate and subscribe, and I'll see you all again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.